So Trillium was, let's see, we started selling that I think in 2014, end of 14 or early 15. We developed it kind of
just
early
after
on.
the summer. When we started.
It's a short, it's a soft rind or a soft ripened cheese. So as it ages, it gets soft. And I think the cheese that was shipped out was made mid-August, according to my records. If any of you received the cheese, it was, I'm sorry, mid-September. So it's on the younger side, but you can see the cheese is starting to break down just inside the rind. You can see the cream line. And this cheese is, half of everything we sell is Trillium at this point. We won several awards, so this is kind of the cheese that put us on the map, especially internationally. We just won second place in Italy at one of the World Cheese competition. So that was in the winter, I think the fall of 2019, spring. That's when the competition was. But we also won a second place award for that, also in up in Wisconsin at a national cheese conference. It has won the Good Food Award for us. Also first place at the American Cheese Society. So it's like, and our first award was in Illinois at the Illinois State Fair, right not too long after it was made. So we're quite proud of this cheese. It's a triple cream cheese sold in an 8-ounce square. As you can see, it's got this really nice bright green label. I love walking into a cheese shop and seeing that cheese. So Fons, you want to talk a little bit about like what inspired you to make it?
You know, and one thing is like, well, the inspiration came from a lot of the like when people asking me, say you have to make one, you know, and so we started making. And what we want is we didn't want to have like a bloomy rind, which becomes very runny. It has to kind of stay nice and firm so you can cut through it. And that's what this cheese is. You will see that as it ages, it becomes softer, but it does not become kind of runny, that you cut it and the whole paste kind of runs out. And the nice thing about it is that as it ages, in the beginning, you just have this very soft, creamy, just under the rind. You kind of see that's darker color. And then that center, that's the part which is, which still is, the pH is actually pretty low, but those enzymes are coming in from the rind and start neutralizing and working on that cheese on the inside. And then at about 6 to 7 weeks after when it was made, that's where it has penetrated completely to the inside, where the whole cheese is kind of nice and soft and creamy. And that's how the flavor development goes too. In the beginning, you pick up a lot of the fresh lactic tones of it. And then as it goes, it develops more, you get this little sweetness coming through, and then you get these mushroom flavors kind of all over at the end. So nice thing about it too is like for people who, you can kind of, if you prefer to have this cheese at a certain age, you can kind of ask for it and say, hey, or kind of look for it. If you want to have you want to have this very soft kind of overripe with a lot of mushroom flavors, then choose a cheese which is close to its sell-by date, let's say. Then you know that you get a bloomy rind, which is all the way ripe. If you like a little bit more those lactic hints, then it's good to choose a cheese which is a little bit younger, and that's how you can go with these cheese. So, yeah.
I tell people when they're trying them, because the number one question when we sample this out at a market is, do I eat the rind? And I always tell people when they eat this cheese is to start in the middle and work your way to the outside, and then to definitely try the rind as long as it's not wax or really moldy or something. But then it's a personal preference really eating the rind of this cheese. I think this cheese when it's young and at room temperature is really nice and soft, and it's got that little tang in the middle, and then as it ages and as you get closer to the rind, you just get those really creamy, buttery notes and mushroomy notes to this cheese.
And that's especially because it has all this extra cream in it. And if you have a cheese with a lot of cream in it specifically, a lot of the flavor of the milk and the cheese is in that fat, which is in there. So what you want to do is make sure that cheese then is also at the right temperature when you eat it. So because it's such a different experience, if you pull this out of a fridge and then immediately put a chunk in your mouth, then compare that to letting that sit out and get it to room temperature and then eat it. you pick up so many more flavors.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable. And then you get that full experience, especially with those cheeses which have like this one, which has a lot of extra cream added to it.
This cheese goes great with chocolate, especially since we're in the holiday candy season. Any chocolate you have around the house, try it with it. Even if you want to experiment with like a Reese's cup or something like that, or a dark chocolate, it's kind of fun to pair this with chocolate. So I just throw that out there since we've got Halloween around the corner.
Yeah, chocolates. But otherwise, I think,
Monko.
you know, what we do a lot in the classes is to pair them with all the different jams.
Yeah.
And, you know, we had a local jam producer, and they made a kind of a Guinness jam.
Yeah,
I
beer
was,
jam.
oh, I love that.
Yeah.
That was so nice.
I think Michael's got a whole list of pairings behind him too.
You know, I adore cheeses like this. This triple creme is just amazing. It just melts in your mouth. The balance of the mushroom on the rind is like white button mushrooms. It's so nice. It's such a pleasurable cheese to enjoy. One of the things about the style that I love about this is the ease of being able to set this up for entertaining. You know, you can just cut this in half and cut it in quarters, and you get a nice little wedge piece, and then cut that in half, and it's a perfect size for, you know, being able to entertain with. And you have the rind on the bottom, so it's not sticking to your tray. So very nice. So I paired this up very classically. I used a fig spread, and this is Perseverance Society. They do a great fig spread with that. And then almonds are really nice with the pairing here. So you can use just traditional almonds that you like. I happen to be using the Mitica, the Douro olives or almonds, or you could use you know, other flavors through there. And oh, the dog wants to come in too. All right, so
Like the Trillium.
I know, it's like, oh, the cheese now. And for pairing this up beverage wise, I've pretty much always done things like oatmeal stouts, chocolate stouts, things like that, because they turn this into just such a great flavor richness. But I decided to go with something a little different, and that is with the Abita Brewing, and this is their Purple Haze. It's a raspberry lager. And I thought that'd be a lot of fun to be able to have that flavor and a little bit of, you know, change that way, especially for the holidays.
You know, and one thing which we do is like we have another cheese, like, you know, it's not even here, but like what we do is we have a cheese called our Snapdragon. And the Snapdragon is like our Trillium, and then we put habanero peppers in it.
Oh.
So it is, again, it's because it has all this cream in it, even if you have that heat coming through, it goes so well with that cheese. And Snapdragon is really picking up in sales right now. But it's, I think, again, it's like it gives a very interesting thing where you can have something very hot and even going with this cheese, you know.
I love this cheese with a Pinot Noir. Like, I think like, there's certain red wines that will just go with this cheese. And also I've had bourbon pair real nicely with this cheese, because this goes great also with like a cherry jam. So if you do like a Manhattan and a little Trillium or something like that, it's really nice together. Kind of tones down the burn of some of the bourbons or whiskeys.
Difficult to go wrong.
I know, it's kind of the cheese that goes with almost everything.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Champagne.
When you're entertaining, you know, and now we're entertaining for 2 versus entertaining for 8 or 10. You know, this is a perfect size. You're able to get a little bit at the start. You know, what would be your suggestion? Because if we're entertaining for 2, I'm probably only going to finish half of this. So what would be the best way to keep this for another night? How would you preserve this?
Wrap it up in the paper that it came in, just so that it's protected from drying out overnight, or, you know, and it'll, you know, tape it up in that paper, because that, again, the paper is the Ovaltine paper that we're getting from Italy, and it will help keep that cheese in this state. That's better than anything.
Yeah,
you don't want to wrap it in plastic.
No.
Don't wrap it in plastic, because it's still alive.
Yeah, and that's especially with I think almost all the cheeses, you know, be very careful with plastic. If you have to do it for a day, it's not a problem. But if you're gonna, especially if you're not gonna touch the product for a couple days, people have to understand is like if you have a wash rind or a bloomy rind, what's growing on the outside is alive, so it needs oxygen. So if you take that away and you wrap that in a piece of plastic and leave it out there, that's not going to be good for the flavor, and you can really destroy that cheese. So if you have to do a little plastic, you can actually do it on the cut side. That's always good, because then you prevent other things to develop over there over time. Again, but it's only if you really have to leave it there for a couple days or something over 5 days. But the best thing is use the paper which you have, or that special breathable paper, or you have cheese wrapping papers which are on the market. It's typically the best thing, but do not close it up with a plastic wrap all the way.
All right. Good idea. All right. So anything else that you'd like to say about this cheese?
Not really. I mean, one thing I think everybody got the cheese that was made mid-September. So this cheese is right at about a month old for those of you who received it from us. And typically it's wrapped at day 14 and then sent out to distribution, and it hits the shelf fairly young. And all of the cheeses have the lot number on the back and a Best Buy. And if you look at that lot number, you'll know the date that cheese was made. And that applies to all of our cheeses, but specifically with that one, if you want to know if it's, you can feel the cheese, you can pick it up and actually feel it. And if it doesn't give much give, you kind of know that it's young. And if you can, as you press it, you can feel the give, and it's kind of soft all the way through, you'll know that it's younger. If for some reason you don't know the age of the cheese. But the lot number always tell you, on our cheeses anyway, the date that they were made. For those of you looking for, really young or more ripe cheeses. And the Best Buy date, as you get closer to that, you're going to have most ripeness on it.
All righty.
That's all I have.
Yeah.
Any
feedback on that cheese from anyone or questions?
Well, there was a question about freezing cheese, but we know that that's not a good idea for fresh cheeses.
Yeah, I typically recommend that if people want to do it, just do it for like really fresh cheese and spreadable cheese, mozzarella. In a way, you can do it a little bit. But once you start aging products and you start freezing that, it destroys the structure of the cheese. But you might get kind of the taste, the flavor, but you don't get the experience of the texture and all that. But if you ended up not caring for that because you put it into a dish or you throw it on something completely different, then sure, if you have to keep it, then do it. But if you want to get that full experience, because cheese is a combination of flavor, the visual part, the texture, you have to feel how it goes in your mouth, how it falls apart. That all contributes to that experience. And that's what we are really after, is that people get such a special experience from the products which we eat that they want to have more, and they're very proud of, that they got our products, especially if they have to go to a party, even if it's a party of two. But if they bring it over there, that people ask and say, hey, where did you get that product? And that's what we are very much after with our products, is give that experience.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, if the cheese is going to go bad and you freeze it, then you could cook with it.
Yeah.
It's just the texture isn't going to be the same as before. So, yeah.
So I already mentioned the hops I was talking about the wheels. That's this one. So it's about a 4-pound wheel, and it's a double cream. And what we do is we actually we work with brewers. A lot of it we work with local brewers, and then it wasn't won a first prize also at the HES a couple of years ago when I entered. And what is nice about it is it has that nice creamy texture. You can kind of see it. And this is all about getting that experience of the quality of the milk, the cream, the sweetness of the cream coming in, and pairing that with some of the beers. And especially I love to use the darker beers for it, because they have this nice flavor characteristics. And once you go into that, and that really is for like a higher cream product, it just goes so well with that. And then when you taste our hops compared to some beer cheeses, you know, some beer cheeses can be overwhelming the moment you taste the beer, and that is not what we're after. We do want you to taste the cheese, and we want to have you kind of, you know, pick up those hints of the beer and those ingredients which you put in there kind of at the finish. But you get that experience of the cheese as well. So it's not just one thing, it's actually two things. So cheese ages for about 6 to 8 weeks. Then we put it out. It's not meant to age out. We really want to sell it, you know, that it kind of ideally within 3-4 months. It's not meant to age out 8 months. It's not going to be a hard aged cheese. It's not made to do that. So shorter aged cheese. It's a nice round rind on it. You know, you can see that. During aging, of course, we have a lot of nice molds growing on the outside. We kind of clean that up before it has to go out to the distributors and to the farmers market, and then you kind of see how the wheel looks like so.
Yeah, the fun thing about about this cheese is it allows us to collaborate with our local and even some regional breweries. And you know, we're infusing this cheese with the beer. And what we do is we ask the breweries to send us 5 growlers or so of beer to make a batch. And then when we're finished making this cheese, then we give them a wheel of cheese in exchange. This is about like the price, about the same price, or, you know, we do an even trade depending on the beer. And it's kind of fun because for those of you all who received the cheese, which if you ordered it in advance, you'll note that the cheese was labeled with a little white label that tells you exactly the name of the beer that was used and the brewery that we got the beer from. And so it's been a lot of fun to really, you know, collaborate. And I feel like we've worked with probably over 100 breweries at this point, some of them multiple times, but every batch we use a different beer. We've partnered with local ones out of Chicago, out of St. Louis, and you know, we'll work with about anyone who wants to send us beer. But it's just been really fun because we've done pairing classes at some breweries, and then we've been able to sell some of the additional wheels back to the breweries. If they have restaurants, they incorporate it into their menu. And I just think it's fun to just do the collaboration. Like that's just been really fun for us.
It's a great networking, you know, with all the artisans out there. It's not only like for us artisan cheesemakers, but there's so much other special artisan food producers on a small scale, especially nationwide. So this is a great way to connect with the community and with other food producers out there and make something which we all have in common, and then promote each other's product in that way. That works great.
And this is a cheese that you have to let it get to room temperature. If you eat it cold, you will not get the flavor that you will if you let it sit out. And I actually had a funny story. My friend Erica, who's the owner at 1056 Brewery in Knox, Indiana, dropped off some beer, and I sent her the wheel, and I called her. I was so excited to ask her what she thought, and she was just like, well, I mean, the cheese was good, but I really didn't taste the beer. And I said, let it sit out. Like, was it cold? She goes, yeah, it was cold when I got out of the fridge. And I'm like, let that sit out about an hour. And then she called me, I don't know, a couple of days later, and she's like, I did the test, and oh my gosh, what a difference. Like, it's really like the temperature of the cheese, and this cheese of any of ours, I think, makes the most difference. So those of you who are trying it and you don't really taste the beer, or you don't taste much in there, then make sure it's at room temperature. So, yeah, that's all I have about it.
Yeah,
it's been fun making this.
Yeah, and I think the interesting
cheese
is really you're tasting two things. You're tasting the beer which we use in there, and you're actually tasting the cheese. And you know, I think that makes it really great. And you know, and thing which we have been starting to do besides this is actually to combine this cheese now with some other, you know, some spirits. Yeah. And we're just making a batch today with a whiskey, 4-year-old whiskey from Brown County, Indiana. And so very interested to see how that comes out. And again, it should be ready just before Christmas.
Yeah, so. And that line of cheese is called White Oak.
Yeah.
The name is derived from the white oak barrels that they use to make bourbon. And
Yeah.
so, and then we use the name hops for this cheese, just because most of our cheeses are named after flowers. So we try to incorporate something natural into the names.
Yeah, we love to do that, you know, and in the past we have actually kind of used the base recipe of this cheese with mixing it with teas, and then one with coffee and all those kind of different things. And it's kind of fun too to try that and especially see how people react to those kind of things. And I think it just for us it's that's the fun part, especially during you know, from spring to fall, to experiment with that and then see the reactions of the farmers market people. You know, if it's a hit or not.
Yeah, and you know, this cheese is distributed locally, but I do have some distributors that have taken it up into Northern California. I know that, and to the East Coast. So
Yeah, and again, if you know, we would work with anybody who would love to have a batch made with their own special beer, and or you know, we even between that we've done it with ciders. We work with that. You know, people who are again crafters of special products, we would love to work with them and see what comes out when you combine the best of two different ingredients and see what is the final product. And sometimes it's one batch we do, sometimes we repeat that a couple times. And yeah, it's something which again, this cheese works perfect for doing those kind of experiments, and it makes it fun, makes it very interesting.
Well, I have to say that it's just such a delicious little cheese. And, you know, my cheeses have been out for about an hour and a half, almost 2 hours. So they're right in that zone. And just a snacking cheese, this is magnificent. This is one of the ones that you could just put on a board and just really just go through the cheese by itself. So because of the flavors and a little bit of salty and tanginess that it brings, I went with a charcuterie, the spotted trotter, with a little bit of pork sausage, a little salami there. And the Brewer's crackers, you know, they have an everything cracker that literally is just like everything on it. And that really, just those three just together makes such a nice little meal, little snack. They just all blend really well. And as for beer, I went with the New Belgian, and this is the Mothership Wit. And it's very classic Hefeweizen, little colander, little orange in there. So it's got some spiciness, and I think really plays out on the beer, on the Rhine, and that does well. So that's what I got.
yeah, I was trying. A thought came to me about how I like to eat. Oh, on a burger. This is great on a burger, for sure. Because it's double cream. But yeah, it's a snack cheese for me, but
Yeah.
I love it.
And we found on the farmers markets that a lot of kids like it too.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not just an adult cheese. It's you know.
Yeah.
It's very approachable.
Ooh, the stinker. Yeah, so Foxglove is our double cream wash drying cheese. This cheese is aged about 5 weeks, but can age as long as like close to like 100 days. And you can serve this a couple of different ways. Sometimes I just cut off the top and stick a spoon in it, because this is one, as it ages, you can actually just scoop the cheese out. And it is beer washed. So as it's washed at certain times of the washing, we incorporate beer to the cheese, or to the cheese wash, along with the brine and the bacteria cultures that we use in this. And you know, this is one of the cheeses that you either love it or you hate it. As far as our customers go, it does have the stink from the washing of it, but I think it's one of the most interesting cheeses that we make.
It's so different from when we just wrap it to when it's all the way soft and ripe, and you know, it's such a nice, interesting thing. And there's just I always love the kind of the science and you know, the bacterial activity, let's say, making this cheese behind it, everything which comes to place. And it's not just, you know, to get this orange rind, it is not something where you just say, hey, you know, this is just one bacteria going. No, it's this whole mixture of stuff going on. To get that nice softness, you have to have special cultures in there. Then to get on the outside, to get that going, you have to work with some yeasts first, and they will get the environment ready for other bacteria to start doing their thing, and then combining all those enzymes, by the end, you develop this product. So, and again, with this, because it has extra cream to it, get that full experience of, how that texture is. It's so important to have it at room temperature. The flavor is completely different when you're having it cold, and the texture is very different. That nice creamy softness on the inside really comes out when it's at room temperature. And like what Laura said, it's like, this is one thing too, where the older it gets, it gets so soft on the inside, it becomes more pungent. And we have a lot of people asking about the rind, if you can eat it on this one. And this is really whatever your preference is. If you like it, eat it. If you don't, then just go for the inside. And the rind is the stronger part of it. So if you skip that on the inside, you can just scoop that out and spread it out on whatever you want to eat that with. It's just a great cheese.
Yeah, and it's washed with a porter beer that's made locally. And we get people who just absolutely love it. But we sell most of the cheese that we sell, of the Foxglove at least, goes to the East and the West Coast, like the Midwest, and into Chicago. So the bigger cities is where we move most of this cheese. At our local farmers markets, we might sell a couple cases a week, but it's more of a cheese that the Europeans, when they're, if you've gone to Europe and tasted a washed rind of Trois, and you've tasted just like the richness and the funkiness of some of their washed cheeses, and you come back and you've tried it, the Europeans say it reminds them of home, and people who have gone to France and traveled say it just reminds them of the cheeses that they tried when they were in France or in Europe. So it's definitely a cheese that's way different than an American cheese, any of the way different than cheddars. I don't know. I'd love feedback from those of you who are out there trying it, and would love to hear what you think about it.
And like it's a stronger washed rind cheese. You could definitely make a mile or two, but we wanted to have a cheese which also jumps out. It has to be unique. Has to be a little stronger. So it is really for people who adore these type of cheeses. They definitely they will really appreciate it.
Yeah, and a little goes a long way on this cheese. I think there's so much flavor, and every little bite, like, you don't need much of this cheese.
Yeah,
and it pairs great with anything sweet. I love pear.
Washed rind is one of categories that I do a lot of judging with. When I get to pick a category, that's one of my favorites. I really love the complexity. I love the meatiness of it. I think they just bring out so much of what cheese is, the diversity of cheese. And this, yes, it is definitely aromatic. It definitely has a really wonderful instant gratification for the aroma. And I think that's really an attribute, because if it's not stinky, then it's not flavorful. And so I think that having that instantly told me that I got a great piece of cheese. It's got a little bit of break around the cream line there that was just magnificent. As a matter of fact, the center is a little thicker, and then when you come up to closer to the rind, it's just so creamy. It's really magnificent. So with washed rinds, I really like to go savory with this. I really like to do things like pâté, do something a little bit more rich that you can. And so I originally had this paired up with a Three Little Pigs, their chicken liver pâté with black peppercorns. It's okay, but it's just so much that I dropped it down and just went with the Petits toast, the cheese, and the sour gherkins. They are just nice. You just need that kick in there, and that sour gherkin really just kind of balances out all of that richness and through there. And I was going to go with the wit again, but it just trumped all over it. So typically I like to go with something that's more Belgian, something a little bit more French farm ale, in there, but it just becomes more heavy. So I changed it up to a Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. So what it does is it cuts through all that
I like
combination and takes it down a notch. And it just works really well that way.
Yeah. Yeah, go.
No, you go ahead.
Well, you know, it's like from a cheesemaker's perspective, this is a cheese which is, you know, wash-rind cheeses are can be pretty challenging to make. And we've seen that with this one too. You know, I think people who have been buying our Foxglove over the years, you know, they have noticed several changes during the years too, and even in the seasons within a year. And but it's something where, you know, actually you see wash rinds being sold, but there is not a lot of being written about wash rind cheese. So it's really about, you know, learning how to work with these cheeses, how to build up your own experience and learn from that. And so it's very unique in that way. And I think that speaks for it that, you know, there's not so much written about it because, you know, there's a lot of technical knowledge which you have to build up making it. And people don't want to really write that down and share it too much because it's, you know, it makes it so unique. So, but I think right now where we are is we're very happy with where the flavors are. And our affineur puts a lot of love and care in this product to make sure that it comes out like that.
I have a funny story. There was a writer out of from the East Coast who was writing about this cheese, and she was doing a wine pairing, and so she called and asked for recommendations, and I threw out a couple, but I had basically told her that this cheese really I've struggled pairing this with wine. And so she said, well, we're going to try it and see. You know, I said, you know, it's washed in beer, so I think that, you know, going with the beer is like a natural pairing. Well, she dubbed it in her article the wine killer, which I had just laugh about, but it was just kind of funny. I just think it's fun that's like our wine killer cheese. But I did hear someone else tell me after that this pairs nicely with an orange wine, which I've never had. So my list to do is pair with an orange wine. But I love pairing this cheese with banana jam. Like, it sounds odd, but there's a local preserve maker, home ec, who makes a couple other really nice jams. She made a banana jam. And it was just lovely with this cheese. And I don't know, it's just kind of fun. I've also had like a pineapple habanero jam, so spicy and real sweet to kind of balance out the funk of this cheese. Has been really, really
citrus, good. You know, that freshness typically is good mixtures.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But it's an experience on its own.
Yeah, we get the most Instagram tweets. We did like years ago when we launched this cheese. From the cheesemongers love this cheese. The people behind the counter who really experience cheese from all over, they love this cheese. I think it's like voted, you know, pretty high up there from the cheesemonger world.
And I think too, the nice thing about people who love these kind of cheeses or would buy our cheese, like our Foxglove on a regular basis or something, it would be great for them to experience and say, how does this cheese changes over time? So buy them at different ages and see, you know, and see how that flavor is, and experience that, you know. And I think it's a very interesting little thing that you can do yourself and see what goes on with a cheese like that, with a product.
Well, when you were talking about the banana jam, one of the first things when I went with the Mothership Wit, it's got the classic banana, orange flavors in it. And by itself, just that, it's absolutely fabulous. And you could just literally just got to scoop it up and enjoy it with a spoon, because this is spoonable. It's just magnificent. So, you know, if you're doing that, but if you add anything more to it, you got to really kind of step it up. But
yeah, and I like it with the pickles. I use Cornichons a lot with this cheese for sure. So it's got that meatiness, the meaty, earthy flavor. Yeah, we talked a little bit about the Nightshade already, our longest aged cheese. This wheel was made in January of this year, so it is getting there, like 10 months old almost.
Yeah.
And I think the lovely thing I like about this cheese is just like the beautiful rind, that we don't do anything with this. Like, once it's comes out of the aging room, most of the wheels have to be washed off, but the rind at this age, of this cheese is just nice, and it looks kind of just like sandy. And I just think this is just beautiful cheese. You know, it's one of our newest ones. It definitely has taken a while for R&D because you have to wait for it to come about. But Fons, you want to add? What do you want to add about it?
No, I think it's, you know, like I said, it's kind of inspired by cheese, which I love from the Netherlands. It's called Old Amsterdam. I just for that kind of cheese. And this is kind of, so, you know, I want to go a little bit into that way a little bit. It's of course not the same because we, you know, we use different milk for it and we have our own techniques and all that stuff. But it kind of inspired me to kind of to go into a certain direction. And, you know, we use the Dutch cultures for this. And it has such a nice, clean taste, and then it ages out really nice. It just showcases a lot of the quality of the milk which we have, and you know the natural rind there. We do not have a cheese press, so we actually press this cheese by stacking it up on a table, and so it's a very hands-on, non-mechanical way of making a long-aged cheese, and yeah, it's really nice. You can see it on the colors. You know, it's nice, rich yellow color coming through. Not even such a big rind, even if it's for a 10-month-old cheese. And yeah, it just I think the flavors are just phenomenal. And we just, like I said, the cheese, when you taste it young, it has no flavor, which is actually when we taste the cheese, it's a good thing. In the beginning, you don't want to have flavor. That flavor just comes through once it gets to 6 to 8 months. And it's just great. And when we try that cheese, when you have an 8 to 10 month old, and for the first time when you have to try that, you know, we take a drill and take that out and you put that under your nose. It's just amazing what kind of flavors and what you know, the odors are coming out there, which is so rich and nice. So yeah, I really like this. Like to make this too.
Yeah. Funny, we call it Nightshade because we were gonna at one point turn the outside, like cover the outside or like stain it with a food coloring so that it was like black or darker color. And then our test didn't end up come back like as we like them, so we just left it natural, but we just left the name.
Yeah, and at 10 months old, you can, you know, the kind of crystals are starting to kind of form in there as well. There's just so much going on. And for me as a cheesemaker, the contrast between like when it's 4 months and then at 10 months, it's just extreme, you know, there's no bitterness to it. It's really nice. And it's just still developing. So I'm very curious to see how this would be like in like over a year. But if we can reach it, I think I have to make myself put a couple of wheels aside and, you know.
It's selling too fast to age long.
Yeah, I could see that. This is a great cheese, again, for snacking, for just enjoying the cheese by itself. It doesn't really need to be paired with anything, but I went ahead and stepped it up just a little bit. I use the Fat Toad. They do, Fat Toad Farm is out of Vermont, and they do a maple caramel. And so adding a little maple caramel to that little bit of saltiness, that sweet, that sea salt caramel going on. And then I put it on the Rustic Bakery, you know, their Artisan Crisp, which is tart cherry, cocoa nib, and almond. So it's got some really nice crunchiness to it and having that flavor. And so now you kind of get this really warm, buttery, nutty flavor that comes out of the cheese. And so I paired it up with a brown ale, and this is a local brewery. This is Cigar City and their Maduro Brown. And so it just kind of brings into more of a edging right into that dessert area because it's just got so much butter and nut flavor to it. This would be a great little holiday, you know, after dinner. You want something that's kind of reminiscent of, you know, the fall. Yeah. I think this would be a great cheese for that.
Yeah, the pairings that I've done with this, when I've taken along the Nightshade, you know, you have your check marks for what Trillium goes with and what Foxglove goes with. The Nightshade is every box. Like this almost pairs with any wine, with anything I put it with. There's just something about the flavor of this cheese that really tends to go with whatever you want to pair it with. And there's a lot going on in it. I don't know. I think it's more complex in flavor, but it just goes well. So with
Yeah.
a lot of
Just one of those cheeses that you just start eating and you have to get another bite, another one, and another.
yeah.
Yeah, I know that my parents would be very happy to put this on the table when they have guests over. You know, they typically have that in the Netherlands when they have a birthday party or whatever. They put a big plate with all kinds of cheeses out for everybody to snack on, and this would be something they would be very proud of putting on that plate.
Absolutely. All right.
Right.
So a cheese that I've been waiting for, I opened this up and it was a little bit of a challenge because it's so creamy. Oh my, I just couldn't believe how creamy and rich this is.
Yeah, so this is a cheese that Fons didn't share he was developing, and one day he came out and said, "Hey, I made a new cheese yesterday. You want to try it?" You've never done that before. You usually tell me when you're going to develop something. So you're going to have to talk all about what inspired you with this one. But
well, it's just it's one of those moments where you're busy with something and suddenly you have this like light bulb going off and say, "Hey, you know what? I want to try this." And because we had, since all our milks are cow milk, we had several people saying, "You know what? We would they love cheese, but they love fresh cheeses, but they have a little bit of they might not have a preference for goat cheeses." So we said, you know what? It would be great to have something which is kind of similar to kind of a fresh goat cheese, like a chèvre, and then but have that same kind of texture, but then have the flavor of the cow's milk coming through, and then to kind of finish that off with a very interesting mix of herbs which go on the outside. And it's a blend of of course nettle, which is how it's called, nettle, and then we have chives in there. We have some mint, and then a little bit of garlic in there, and so yeah, it's just it's a whole new thing. And I think especially the little bit of use of mint is so surprising and so nice with it, because what it does is it gives a nice little freshness to this cheese. And I love to eat this cheese just when you put it on a salad, you crumble it over. But it's just a nice balance too on a cheese plate when you have like all these other cheeses, like if you have a Foxglove and a Nightshade, and then suddenly you go into like a Nettle, which is nice creamy freshness, and that little bit of mint popping through in there. I think it's makes a great mix of products.
Yeah, this cheese people, I think, dub it as just like fresh, because just the finish is just fresh. And I love it with watermelon, on a taco, over beans. It's a great summer cheese, but it also goes great with like going into fall soups. And you can crumble it or spread it is the cool thing about this cheese. And the texture is great.
Yeah, and although in the beginning, if you cut it, the texture might crumble a little bit, but as you put it in your mouth, it kind of melts away. It becomes nice and soft. And I think that's what I really adore of this cheese, is that texture experience when you eat it.
Yeah, when I was referring to it being creamy, it was the first bite that I had out of it. It was just so nice. This is a great way for summertime or just something light. What I love about it, the first thing that came across was that lemony flavor that's on there. And so that was kind of surprising at first. And so I originally was thinking of doing just a cracker or a flatbread that's sea salt, but it doesn't need to add any saltiness to it. So I went with the fire hook, the rosemary, and just having a little bit of rosemary kind of takes a little bit of that lemon down just a little bit. Doesn't make it disappear, but what it does is it kind of, to me, balances out a little bit more. And, you know, I paired it up with a Pilsner Urquell, a nice little Pilsner. So the Pilsner in that, it's also light and just easy. So that was, I love how it's crumbly to start, but it just literally melts in your mouth.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
creamy.
that's a really popular cheese for us.
Yeah.
Like, especially just this year, our sales just really jumped as we have distributors taking it outside of the local area. And you know, this is the only cheese I could ever think of that I've ever wanted to pair it with something citrusy. Like you can put it with oranges or little tangerines or, you know, melon. It's just fun. I just think it's a fun cheese. And on a sandwich too, it's really, really good, like turkey, something like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, wine-wise, a nice Sauvignon Blanc or an unoaked Chardonnay would be absolutely fabulous with this. You know, just really simple and easy. It's such a nice cheese, and I really like the tanginess through it, but also all the spices. So, thistle, right?
Nettle.
On the top of this?
Nettle.
Nettle, that's what I meant, nettle. So tell me more about the nettle here.
What do you want to know?
Well, I mean, where do you just order it online, or do you pick, or, you know?
Get it out of your garden. Are you growing it?
No, yeah, of course we cannot do that. No, yeah, I buy it from you know, in bags. So it's part of a blend which we put in there. So it's you know, and nettle in the Netherlands is actually very popular to put into cheeses. So it's so that's one of the things which I really, when we started out, I wanted to do something with nettle, and I think in the Netherlands you find a lot of Gouda with nettle as well, and so we wanted to do something, and I think you know, putting that on this type of cheese was just a perfect combo.
Yeah. Okay. So anything else that you'd like to add to the cheeses, or anything else you'd like to say before we wrap up here?
I mean, if anybody took any nice pictures tonight, I'd love for you all to tag us so we can see kind of how you paired them, or what you all out there, you know, how you ate these cheeses. We always love to see how people are using them. And then also letting everyone know that, you know, we've got descriptions of all the cheese on the website. We had stopped shipping except for this event, because FedEx doesn't guarantee the shipments anymore, but we are starting back over the next week or so for holiday gifts, now that the temperatures come down and cheese won't sit, you know, around hopefully and get hot. So yeah, so we ship, and we will ship for the holidays, and we just appreciate you all taking the time to know us a little more. And if you have any other questions that we weren't able to answer, you can go to our website and just send the questions, and they come right to my email. So
if you have any great ideas, please shoot them to us.
All right, that's great. All right,
we really appreciate you, Michael, taking time to do this and taking the time to do the pairings. We really, really do appreciate the work you do in the cheese world to help support and promote us small independent businesses. So we appreciate you a lot.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. I love just hearing your story and eating your cheeses, and I hope that we can spread some more love for you along the way. So really just such fabulous products. You guys just, you know, any cheese shop that has the opportunity to be able to get your cheeses would really do a great benefit to their customers by being able to share these, because these are one of a kinds. These are not your typical cheese that you just pick up from anywhere. This is definitely, you know, this is like the king and queen of cheese boards. So hopefully we'll you know, get some holiday cheese boards going there. And I gotta, like, I took a photo of this board, so I'll post that along with
great.
it. So people that want to put together, this will be up on my YouTube channel. It'll have the complete descriptions. It'll have how to get a hold of you, how to order the cheeses, all that will be on there. So people that are deciding that they want to do more, do a virtual cheese tasting with their friends or just a couple, we'll be able to do that. So thank you so much for coming out and playing. And I really sincerely appreciate the time that you took. It was fantastic. And from the comments through there was just love all around.
Awesome.
Great.
Thank you so much.
All right. I'm going to leave with your last slide. So you take care, and I'll be in touch as soon as these are up and posted.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you again for watching Cheese in Depth. I'm Michael Landis, and I wanted to thank you for taking the time to watch one of our segments. You can find this one and others on my YouTube channel, Michael Landis Cheese.